what I want to ask you about is Lord of the Rings Online.
Right.
Because that's something else you do, which is fun. You stream that on Twitch, and you have two separate slots during the week, where you take general lore questions about Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And the other is sort of your archaeological exploration of the game world that you do after exploring Lord of the Rings.
That's right.
So I guess my question is, what do you find so appealing about the game, and why should people enjoy it, and why should book readers enjoy it, and also why should Helen play it, because Helen's considering playing it.
Oh,
at least she told me recently.
Yeah.
You do play it?
Yeah. I just don't have it on my new Mac. I need to download everything.
Okay.
I did play it for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, you told me you played it before, but you told me recently you were considering playing it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I love about the Lord of the Rings Online is that it's a really brilliant adaptation of Tolkien's works. There have been a lot of Lord of the Rings games over the years, as you know, surely, Dan, but a lot of them have just been like either let's play the movie characters, right, or they've been a pretty simple, let's
smash some orcs.
Smash some orcs. Like, you get to be Frodo and Aragorn smashing a bunch of orcs, right? So what the Lord of the Rings Online has done is a fascinating. First of all, they're wonderful readers of the text, and that's been apparent from the very beginning. I remember one of my earliest experiences in the Lord of the Rings Online. I got to Tom Bombadil's house, right? Which you get to pretty early in the game. And I got to Tom Bombadil's, and the very first thing I did was I ran back around to the backyard of the house to see if there were lines of beans on poles that you could see outside the windows in the back of the house. And there are. They have beans on poles in the backyard. And I'm like, okay, this is legit right here. This is legit. Anyway, no, I mean, they're such careful readers of the text. But more than just paying attention to detail and making sure that, like, when you go to the house at Crick Hollow, which you get to after, Fatty Bulger has fled and the Nazgul have come up, there's a slashed cloak on the threshold of the front door, right? Just like it's just like it mentions, that Gandalf found. So, it's not just that, right? It's not just their attention to detail. They're really thoughtful and perceptive readers, and the kinds of stories and the way that they deal with the themes from the book within the stories that they put in their quest lines, the remarkable cleverness and resourcefulness with which they enable the players to kind of shadow the main story without impinging on the story, participating but not just recapitulating the primary story all the way through. The way in which they manage to provide a kind of depth to the story, to elements of the story, to tell the untold tales that are only glimpsed in the story. My favorite example of that, of course, is the riding of the Grey Company, right? So, of course, when the Dunedain, when they meet when the Dunedain meet up with Aragorn in Rohan, right, and we learn that they've traveled down from Rivendell and have been searching for Aragorn. In the game, of course, not only do you get to actually travel with the Grey Company as they come all the way down the map from Rivendell, basically you kind of do it in little jumps, but not only do you follow the Grey Company all the way down, but prior to that, in the earlier parts of the game, you've gotten to know each single member of the Grey Company by name because you've encountered them at various places and done quests with them. So that, like, when the Grey Company shows up and they fight with Aragorn at the Battle of Pelennor Field, you know the backstory and the names of every single Dunedain who fights and dies often, of course, many of them, at the Battle of Pelennor Field. It gives this very it's so well done. It is such an interesting investment in the story. So yeah, my like Archeo gaming stuff that I do is really, it's a tribute to the depth of their thoughtfulness and adaptation, that I love to just kind of go through and say, all right, what's the story that they're telling, right? Those are kind of the two threads that I do. On Tuesday nights, I'm exploring the world scene by scene, right? I'm just kind of going around and looking at everything and seeing the kinds of stories that they are suggesting, and the relationship between the game story and the book story, based on how they've built the world itself and what you can just observe by looking at it. On the Friday afternoon ones that I do, on the Twitch of the official Twitch channel for the Lord of the Rings Online, there I am answering lore questions. It's my general Q&A time every week, but it also is where I'm going through the entire, like all of the quest lines, basically, like doing the complete story from beginning to end.
Yeah, because your archaeological character, he sort of just makes everybody else play the game for him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't. He gained his first experience points the other day by accident, actually. I've been gaming with him for 4 years without gaining a single experience point, which I was pretty proud of.
I see a pattern here. With your reader going through the Lord of the Ring books and doing this.
Exactly. No, I love being thorough in discussing, and again, it's just part of that that whole lifelong experience from when I was a kid, of like how the Lord of the Rings, this world and this story, it's something that keeps giving back to you. The more times you read it and the more you invest in it. And the Lord of the Rings Online is such a good adaptation of that story that, it partakes of that richness. They've invested so much in that story and in their thinking about the books. I have enormous respect for the team of folks at Standing Stone who have done such a wonderful job over the years, especially Chris Pearson, who is their primary, the senior lore monkey, as he gives his job description or his job title.
Somebody else I'd probably enjoy interviewing, I'd imagine.
Oh, you absolutely should. He's
like
he's
the
really great.
Group of Star Wars, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, anyway, as I said, I have great respect for them as readers and thinkers about Tolkien's world, and I just I also, it's something I've become really interested in over the last 10 years or so. Increasingly over time, I've become more and more interested in adaptation and sort of creative engagement with Tolkien's world, and that's something. That's what Tolkien did. That, like, he couldn't help it. There's a reason he didn't publish. There's a reason he didn't publish more scholarly work, like more philology books in his career, right? And the reason was because he was doing the Lord of the Rings instead, right? He's doing something, but not in the way, some people think like, oh, he was like just writing fiction books for fun when he should have been writing serious scholarly work, but that's not it at all, right? The Lord of the Rings, that is his philology book, right? His Legendarium is
it's another form of teaching, right?
It is. It absolutely is. This is how Tolkien thought, right? He engaged best with academic and intellectual questions by engaging with it creatively. And
that's like what you were saying about Morgoth's Ring, where he was working through problems, where he was literally writing stories in order to figure out philosophically what has changed since the Lord of the Rings. He was writing new things.
Absolutely. And this is the same way that he dealt with stuff. And, so when he was thinking about the history of the Gothic language and how the Gothic language was related to other Germanic languages of about that period, how did he do that? Like, how did he work through that stuff? Well, he worked through that stuff in Appendix A, right? He worked through that stuff by thinking about the changes of language from the Rohirrim and where they come. And you can see the Gothic names, Vidugavia and, the Gothic names up there from Rovanian, right? You can see him thinking through some of these very questions, which like he should have been publishing scholarly articles on, but instead he was writing the Lord of the Rings, but he was doing it in the Lord of the Rings. He was thinking about Beowulf, and instead of writing a book on Beowulf, he writes Rohan. Right, we get Rohan, which contains so many of his contemplations of Beowulf and much of his analysis of Beowulf.
The Hobbit, I always say, is kind of like Beowulf, but from the thief's perspective.
Right, exactly. So yes, thinking about creative engagement as a way of as a form of academic and intellectual engagement. Tolkien has really kind of helped me see that. And so I myself have become much more interested in that. And I love seeing how other people do it, whether it's the kind of creative engagement that the Lord of the Rings Online folks have done, or of course, the films, screen adaptations also are very interesting in that regard. I'm really interested about the things that are coming, right? The Amazon, both the Amazon series and the Amazon game that are both coming. I'm really interested in both of those. And of course, so I've been doing my own projects with this for a while. The Silmarillion film project that I've been working on now for 5 years. Is we're planning a totally theoretical and imaginary adaptation.
For everybody who hasn't seen it, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that one.
It's only been in the last couple of years that I'm like, I never thought. I thought of that from the beginning as a totally academic exercise, right?
Yeah.
And it's only in the last couple of years that I've really begun to realize it's like a creative outlet for me. I love that as a creative outlet, being able to think through the Silmarillion stories in a creative way, to be, which adaptation really forces you to engage with something imaginatively and creatively in ways that you don't have to, if you're just, reading and writing criticism of it.
It needs to be the it could be true factor, and that's what you give it with that form.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. So yeah, I've come to love that stuff much more. So a lot of that is involved in my LOTRO stuff. And again, it's because they at the Lord of the Rings Online have done such a good job with their own engagement with the text that I find it, I've been streaming LOTRO, in those ways, with that kind of, detailed analysis for years now, for more than, 4 or 5 years. And it's still very, very rewarding. And I'm working my way, so my character that I created on my first session of my stream and have been carrying through and, questing through and doing all of the storyline. It's he's now level 90, he's maybe halfway through all of the content. There's still so much. He's still got half of Rohan and all of Gondor, and then Mordor, and then all the other new places they've made since then. So I'm still way behind the game. They actually produce the game faster than I can play it, because I just don't have enough time. I'm doing it. So I very rarely get to play outside of my stream. I mean, I look forward to my stream times every week, because it's like the time I get to game every week. I really look forward to it. But so I mean, there's always more, and the remarkable dedication that they've shown is really wonderful.
Yeah, they've done a really good job. It should be me that you're persuading to play the game, because I've never got through more than a few hours of it personally, but that's because I know about massively multiplayer online games and how much time they take. Yes,
certainly. And LOTRO is...
I'm quite addictive as well. Like, I will get addicted to something like that, especially in Middle Earth.
No, exactly. I resisted for a long time. I knew about LOTRO from when it launched, and I deliberately didn't play it when it launched. Especially, I mean, at the time when it launched, I was like an untenured faculty member and everything. I did not have, not that I have time now, but at least now it's like part of my job in a sense, right? But at least I can justify it that way. But yeah, I mean, so there was a long delay, and it wasn't actually, Dan, until I heard Chris Pearson give a talk about it. and I was like, okay, I can't resist this anymore. I really need to know about this. I really need to see this. So anyway, so that's I haven't regretted it, but yes, it's now, I believe it is now the largest game world in history.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's a single sort of stable game world that is bigger.
Keeping updates. And,
yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, and by bigger, I mean literally the size of the game world, like the amount of gaming space. Not largest in terms of like number of players or something like that, but as far as like being able to go and explore the game world and do all the, it is so.
Well, yes, they blow up the scale quite a lot as well, don't they, compared with what's in the books? Because they have to.
Well, I mean, they certainly cover areas. Of course, the scale is one of the sort of the continuously sort of comical things.
On a micro level, they blow things up, but then on a macro level, things are actually less far apart than they are.
Yeah, exactly. Like it takes you running on foot. It takes you about 5 to 10 minutes to go from from Buckland to Bree, for instance. So it's much smaller in scale, of course. And I forget. I forget. Somebody did the math. Somebody calculated based on estimates of distances on the Middle Earth maps. If you actually were traveling across Middle Earth on Tolkien's scale at the rate at which your horse travels across the gaming world, you'd be going like 2 times the speed of sound, basically. So, but obviously the game world is big enough even at that scale. But yeah, the way, that's one of the things that's so much fun about it, the way in which they are able to take you, because in the books, you stick to this one thread, right? This one line, and there's so much of the world you don't see. Yeah. And so being able to explore, Dunland and and down in like southern Gondor, right? Down like Dol Amroth, and I mean, so many places that are only names in the book that are only just alluded to. Fornost and Enuminus, and I mean, so many things. And you get to go there and you get to see those places, and they just the latest thing that they just released a couple months ago was Mount Gundabad up in the north of the Misty Mountains. So I mean, it's they've done the whole Iron Hills and the settlements of the dwarves up there around the Lonely Mountain. It's been cool. So
have they done Dorwinion yet? Because I really want to go and get drunk in Dorwinion.
Not yet. I think they're adjacent. I don't think so. I've not fully explored it yet. I've only done a couple tourist trips to that area. I haven't quested in that area, but I've only just been to visit the Lonely Mountain and Lake Town and Dale and the Elf King's halls and stuff. Like the major tourist sites, basically. I haven't explored the whole area, so I don't think they went all the way to Dorwinion, but I'm sure the vineyards are going to be pretty epic when they get there.
They'd have to be, wouldn't they?
Yeah.